Hey everybody, Brian from Strong Tower Training, functional aging specialist and Z Health neurotrainer, covering the ABCs of the cerebellum with you today. So I'm excited about this. We're coming at you obviously in the recorded format. I'm missing Dr. Cody on here as kind of co-hosting with me because we had a schedule mix-up, but hey, that happens sometimes, and thought it would be super important for you and your clients just to get the recording out to you as soon as possible. So I'm recording, I guess, about a half an hour past when we were supposed to be live here, but nonetheless, I'm live, and you'll get the PowerPoint today. So the slides won't be visible. I'm just going to talk you through the presentation. There's some research articles which are amazing in looking at some of the research surrounding the cerebellum. And so let's dive in. We're talking about the ABCs of the cerebellum today. So accuracy, balance, and coordination. And that is a great, just simple way to explain why the cerebellum is important to your clients. You can say, hey, it's involved in movement coordination. It's involved in your balance, highly involved in your balance, and staying upright, resisting gravity. And it's also involved in the accuracy of your movement, and really the accuracy of movement prediction too. So we'll talk a little bit about trajectory prediction today, and an area of the cerebellum that relates specifically to if something's coming at you or you're in motion, projecting or thinking through, processing the trajectory of where you're going, where objects are going around you. And the better we can obviously predict, the better we can have successful movement, and that means reducing chance of injury and just making people better movers. So we're going to jump into the neuroanatomy and the function of the cerebellum. The cerebellum is located in the posterior part of the brain, just inferior to the cortex and superior to the brainstem. So I have my nifty little model here. One benefit maybe of doing the presentation this way is going to be you'll get to see this stuff. So the cerebellum is this green, lime green right here. The brainstem is the white right in front of it. And then we have the cortex. So the cerebellum has been nicknamed the little brain because it has a very close representation of some of the topographically some of the areas of the cortex, and so it's almost like a little model of what people think of as the brain or the cortex, and some of the higher level processing stuff up top. So there's also a right and a left cerebellum, and they help with coordination of ipsilateral movement. So they also help with the speed and the accuracy of those movements. And new research is showing that the cerebellum contains over 50%, some estimates are up to 80% of the neurons in the brain. So if you want to look at a brain area, even though it's small, I mean, we're talking, probably 10% of the actual weight of the brain, 10 to 20%, but it has connections with so much neuronal communication in the brain that if you start to focus on the cerebellum and we give you the tools to impact it, we're actually impacting a lot more than just that. So next point here, the cerebellum's involved in production of GABA, and GABA is a key inhibitory neurotransmitter that helps prevent mood disorders, seizures, muscle tremors, and because of that, GABA has also become a popular supplement. The research on supplementing for it is kind of mixed, so not promoting GABA supplements, but knowing that the cerebellum is so involved in GABA production, we may, through working the cerebellum and giving you these tools, help with just brain function in some other areas as well. The cerebellum can be divided into three major parts. So the medial controls midline, so thinking spine and eyes in the medial cerebellum, and the middle of the cerebellum controls midline of the body. So an easy way to think of it. The intermediate cerebellum controls the proximal joints, so we have a lot of work on like hips and shoulders can help improve the intermediate. The other thing that the intermediate cerebellum is involved in is that trajectory prediction. So if I throw the ball against the wall here in the office and the ball bounces back and I'm trying to accurately predict that trajectory, catch the ball, highly involved there. So that's a good way to impact and activate the intermediate cerebellum, is to do just some toss and catch drills. If clients are comfortable with it, if they're not, it can be as simple as walking the ball to them and sort of moving the path of the ball. There's still going to be some trajectory prediction and adjustment as you do that. And that's a great way to teach people who have never felt comfortable catching how to catch, is just coming towards them at a nice controlled pace, and then you gradually start to speed it up, walk them the ball, hand it to them, they can toss it back, and then you speed it up over time, and then maybe you're starting to do some balloon toss and catch, and then you're doing like a bigger ball, like a beach ball if they're comfortable with that, and then eventually you can probably work up to tossing tennis balls back and forth with people. So again, that's the intermediate cerebellum, and then the lateral cerebellum controls the distal joints. So now we're talking hands and feet, doing wrist movements, ankle movements, coordinated movements with the fingers, with the toes, a fantastic way to work on the distal cerebellum. The cerebellum also works directly with the contralateral cortex to coordinate movement. So it not only coordinates the movement paths that we want, it helps prevent unwanted movement. So it actually helps prevent the movements that we don't want happening, and that's part of how it coordinates the movements we do want happening. So contralateral cortex, there's a connection there. If you dig into the research that I post at the end here or in the PowerPoint, you're going to get just a good picture, a good visual of where that corticocerebellar pathway is and how it connects to that opposite cortex. So the cerebellum is also, it communicates with the ipsilateral or same side vestibular system. So there's a close tie to the vestibular system, which interestingly has a lot to do with muscle tone and the extensors. So if we want to impact posture, if we want to impact gait and get those extensors functioning better, there can be a really close link to same side or ipsilateral cerebellum and vestibular system to help impact on, again, the extensor tone. There's also new research, this is exciting, that indicates a relationship with cognition. So this is from one of the studies, and the article is from 1998, and it's from the Journal of Neuroscience, and it states, quote from the article, again posted in the research archives here, the cerebellum has classically been considered as a primary motor control organ, with specifically a role in motor learning. So there's a connection to learning, specifically motor learning. A recent functional imaging experts in humans, functional imaging experiment, has pointed to cerebellar involvement in a host of additional functions such as tactical sensory discrimination, attention, and cognitive function. Which maybe cognitive function would be an umbrella, and attention might go under that. They separated them out here in this article. So exciting connection to cognition. There's a second article in there too, talking about the last 25 years, and again, that just the connection that we're starting to see with cerebellum and cognition. So how do we apply this information with your clients? How do we get you and your clients better results? We know that if clients get better results, typically they're going to stick around longer. And so not only would this help improve your client results, which I'm sure everybody here really cares about. We're in this profession typically not to make top dollar, but to help people. And then secondly, we know that people that get great results typically stick around, and if they don't get the results they're looking for, they may not. So the first step in application is we always want to assess so that we don't have to guess. So we're going to assess and reassess to make sure that we're getting the results that we want, and clients will be able to see this. The acronym C, secondly, is a great way to think about the assessments that you're doing. So we'll cover the assessments here later on in the presentation. and I'll show you. So hopefully the setup here will give me room to kind of show you too some of the how to assess. So the acronym C or SEA, like the ocean or the sea, not SEE. Can you see it? SEA, so speed, endurance, and accuracy. You want to think through those three components as you're doing assessment. So how is their speed? How is their accuracy? And then how is their endurance? And so if we do cerebellum assessments, we want to take it typically beyond 10 seconds and see, at 10 seconds, 15 seconds, do they start to slow down? Does the coordination and the accuracy really shift? And sometimes that's more of an endurance or a brain fuel, more of a metabolics issue versus they're just not trying hard enough. So a lot of times if we work on the breathing, work on nutrition, and fix some of those elements metabolically, you're going to see the endurance pick up with some of the assessments too. So application-wise, we also want to think through some of the pathways, so the brain pathways, sensory information like sound and vestibular impact on the ipsilateral or same side cerebellum, whereas the olfactory system, so if I smell into my left nostril or take a sniff even, what activation happens there, that is kind of the oddball sense, and that actually goes to the contralateral cerebellum. So left nostril goes to right cerebellum, and then right nostril would activate more left cerebellum. Similarly, the olfactory system is the odd man out from the five senses when you look at cortical activations. And so in cortical activations, because we have that cross with cerebellum to cortex, think we just switch it with olfactory. So olfactory, right nostril is going to go right cortex and do more to activate there. But the cerebellum, just think smell crosses over. So if you're doing some nasal occlusion or you're doing some smell identification with clients, we know that that's important in neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's, dementia. And so doing some olfactory work, as maybe weird as it sounds to some of us, if we haven't done that before, that can be a great way to stack or add inputs to the cerebellum to make the movement drills maybe that you're doing a little bit more effective. So a simple explanation for clients as you apply this material, just basically make them aware of the fact that assessing is so important because we don't want to guess at the results or the change that we're seeing. And we're going to activate this brain area called the cerebellum because it controls the movement ABCs. So your accuracy, your balance, your coordination. If we make the correct side through assessment and then activation, if we make the correct side of the cerebellum more awesome, we're going to make your movement more awesome. And typically everybody that comes in to see us wants to move better, wants to feel better. And so just a simple way to explain it as, hey, this is an area of the brain that controls the ABCs, and the ABCs make you a better mover if we activate the correct side and give it enough upregulation or activation. So the how-to, continuing in application here, another key concept, we talked a little bit about olfactory or smell. The respiratory system we've also found is key in cerebellar training or cerebellum activation. So air hunger drills, or intentional hypercapnia is the technical term for it, while performing a movement, it can be a very effective way to, again, increase activation to the cerebellum. There's a link to a research article at the end, so again, check that out because it's really, to me, fascinating with all the fMRI research that we have now to see, okay, what happens when we do this, what happens when we do this. So intentional air hunger work, basically that's going through some movement without breathing. The less threatening way to do that for people typically is to inhale. So you have your clients inhale and then hold your breath while we do some cerebellum type movements. So maybe it's a coordinated hand figure eight. That's the less threatening version. And then when they need to breathe, they're going to exhale, take a deep breath in. If somebody has pretty good respiratory habits and we can challenge that system a little bit more, then we can go to a full exhale. So not like you're going swimming in the pool and you're going to dive under, take a deep breath in, opposite of that. And this will seem weird to people and challenging at first, but again, fantastic way to upregulate the cerebellum. So let's say we're going to exhale all the way. You've coached them through the movement so they know what they're going to do movement-wise, holding the breath on the exhale. So I'm not going to breathe in, and then going through a few of the movements for cerebellum activation, again, specific to that side that we want to work on. That one you just have to, from a safety standpoint, make sure that people don't push themselves too far. So it's not about holding your breath until you see stars. Just cover that quick with them. Tends to be just like kind of a joke, and people think, oh yeah, like this crazy drill you're having me do for brain activation, I could see where it could be a little bit too much. So for the competitive people, it's not about how many reps you can do or how long you can hold your breath. It's just getting a slight challenge in that respiratory system where you feel like, okay, I need to breathe, I'm building up carbon dioxide, and then we need to do that quick exchange of oxygen, carbon dioxide, get the waste product out, and pull the fuel back in. So again, check out that research article, fantastic on air hunger. All right, so this is where kind of the rubber meets the road, so to speak. We'll dive into assessments first. So for medial cerebellum, again, spine and eyes, a great way to assess is to have clients in Rombergs. So basically they're going to stand feet together, eyes closed, and then we want to see that they can stand for 20-30 seconds resisting gravity and looking at how much sway there is right to left. Maybe there's nothing, they might be rock solid, that's fantastic. This is an area where if you care about your clients, and I know you do, you're probably going to want to stand next to the person, especially if they've had some falls or they've had some balance challenges in the past. We just want to be there to do a good job supporting them if they do fall out of Rombergs, and maybe they're not super comfortable with stepping and catching themselves. Just be there to help assist with that. Have them in a safe space, floor clear around you, obviously. If somebody does fall out of Rombergs consistently and they're not getting to that 20-second marker, it's probably, unless you're a neurologist, probably beyond our scope in the industry that we work in. So you'll have probably a good person to refer out to would be a neurologist. So if you have a neurologist in your referral network, you would want to just explain to that client, hey, this is a basic task. There might be something going on a little bit deeper and just want to have you checked out. So sending them to somebody that you trust to make a good referral out should they be just totally unsuccessful with Rombergs. Assuming that they are successful with Rombergs, we can increase the challenge by doing like a nose to finger. So we can go feet together, standing up. I'll show you quick. And nose to finger. So feet are together, eyes are closed. And then I'm taking pointer finger to nose as quickly as I can. And you can also do that anywhere on the midline, really. So you could go pinky finger, switch it up, have them go pinky finger to chin, right center, again, right on midline. And you're looking for an accuracy difference right to left. And you can also look at sway. So looking at the gray space, like if you're looking at the blue wall behind me, and as I'm doing my pinky to chin drill, maybe I'm consistently on that movement, shifting my shoulders, and you're seeing this gray space behind me or blue space behind me start to disappear, and it's consistent. You're just seeing that movement to one side happen over and over again. That's a good indicator for midline cerebellum that might be the side that's underactive, it's weaker, it's not getting as much upregulation. So functionally, we want to help them start working on some midline drills specific to that side of the cerebellum. Then moving on to intermediate cerebellum. This is again that trajectory prediction one. So you could do a little bit of toss and catch. A lot of times starting out, people are more comfortable tossing and catching with themselves. So in this case, we would go right hand to right hand, toss the ball, catch the ball. To make sure that there is a little bit of trajectory prediction involved here. You don't want them just doing like a little 5-6 inch toss and catch. You want to make sure that they're getting a good high toss. A good rule of thumb there is just tell them throw it above your head and then catch it with that same hand. And then you're going to compare, again, their accuracy and coordination right to left. The other one that we can do is shoulder flips. So we're going to basically pronate, supinate the forearm, but do that through the glenohumeral joint. So we're moving through the shoulder, palm up, palm down. Fingers are squeezed together, kind of like a cupped hand here. And then you can have them go, okay, nice and tall. They could be in Rombergs if their balance is pretty good. And then they're just going to flip up to down. And you're watching for a couple things. Is their sway? And then what is their speed and accuracy? So does this one kind of like fishtail, and that would be less coordination? Is it a lot slower? Or is, again, like there's some issue with maybe endurance, speed, accuracy? You're just coming back to that C from the assessment as you think through them. So lateral cerebellum. This one we can do foot tapping. So you can do rapid rhythmic foot tapping, right toe taps, left toe taps, having them in a standing position for that one. And also for the distal joints, we got the hands. So we can go to hand flips. The functional neurology term, dysdiadochokinesia, hopefully I didn't butcher that, but dysdiadochokinesia is this one where we're just flipping the hand over and back. So coaching cues, we want to make sure that they're hitting the same spot on the bottom hand each time as that base or support, and then they're lifting and picking up and replanting the hand. So they're not using proprioception to just go back and forth as fast as they can with the hand down. So it's not a karate chop, it's a pick it up and flip it all the way over. And then again, speed, accuracy, endurance, which side's better and which side is needing more awesomeness, and that's the side where it needs more awesomeness that we're going to start to do our activations or our drills. Moving on to activations. So this is the fun part. We have toss and catch. So we talked a little bit about that early on. You can start with a bigger ball. You can start with walking it to clients, and then the progression would be to go to a smaller and smaller target. You can also have them do like a self-toss and catch. So maybe put some, we have colorful sticky dots up all over the studio here. And so you can have them throw it at, okay, hit the yellow dot, good. Let's go left hand, maybe that's the side that needed more activation. Hit the blue dot, good. And then they're not only doing the toss and catch, so we have distal involved, accuracy involved. We are also doing more of that intermediate cerebellum activation because they're predicting the trajectory coming off of the wall too. From there, complex non-linear movements. So the cerebellum gets a lot of activity in complex non-linear patterns. So your traditional kind of like the leg extension machine, the leg curl machine, that would be very linear and not great, honestly, for the cerebellum. So good for strengthening, maybe like adding some general strength or power depending on how you're using the machine, whether it's a Kaiser or not. That's a fantastic way, obviously, to work on focusing on strength and power. But for a cerebellum activation, we want to do more non-linear patterns. So we could do circles, we could do figure eights. If the client's ready for figure eights, you're getting some decent coordination, that's a good place to start. So maybe it's like a shoulder figure eight. So you're cueing long, tall posture, and then they're going through that figure eight pattern, making sure that they're relaxing other parts of their body, they're breathing, and then also a great cue is reverse. So, okay, you're going through your figure eight, go, 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 reverse, reverse, reverse. And sometimes you'll start to see smoke coming out of people's ears, but a great way, again, to upregulate or activate the cerebellum. You can go figure eights with air hunger drills. So if we start to talk about stacking, okay, let's do normal breathing and then go through 5 shoulder figure eights. And then as you get through your first 5, now I want you to hold your breath, and you're going to shoot for 3 to 5 more. Like you determine based on when you need to breathe, obviously when you stop, but try a few more figure eights. and then they're going to go and get that quick pull of air in. Again, carbon dioxide, waste product out, fast oxygen intake that they're actually utilizing, and again, it's going to upregulate the cerebellum even more. So we also cover in our neurotraining foundations course some of the visual patterns. So we put together a cerebellum bonus for everybody in our neurotraining foundations course that has taken it. There's also a private Facebook group for that, so it's posted in, I believe it's posted in the Facebook group as well. But the diagonals visually connect with more upregulation of the right or the left cerebellum, depending on which diagonal. So we can do pursuits, we can do saccades, and those will specifically activate one cerebellum or the other based on which direction you're going. Spinal extension with rotation. So we will extend, and you can work on this isometrically. You can also do kind of like a coupling pattern where you're cueing some spinal coupling. So you're going to rotate and then extend and then rotate again and then extend, rotate, extend. And if you put that together from the video, I'm going to my left, so I'm upregulating left cerebellum. So more extension and rotation towards that left side is going to upregulate left, and then if I extend, rotate, and couple through that to the right, it's more right cerebellum. So again, thinking midline, spine and eyes, and so really good for the medial cerebellum. Then we have shoulder and hip extension and external rotation isometrics. So ways that you can build that out, you can combine that with the spinal movement. So if you want midline and you also want that intermediate cerebellum activation, we can go extension in the shoulder, external rotation, extension, external rotation, extension, external rotation, cueing them into a position, of course, that's pain-free, but getting them to a point where, okay, we're holding a good amount of tension in those external rotators, the extensors of the shoulder, and then let's go ahead and spinal rotate, extend, rotate, extend. Again, if you wanted to go to the right, we would go right shoulder or right hip. Fantastic way to activate one side of the cerebellum versus the other. And then the last activation is basically the assessment can become the drill. So we've been doing just dysdiadochokinesia in group, hand wraps, hand flips, and people will say, oh man, am I just getting better at it because I'm doing more of it? Like we come back to it. And yeah, there's some truth to that. So the assessment can become the drill. Typically I don't use it as the primary way to activate the cerebellum, but sometimes there is a little bit of a training effect. So you're maybe seeing the assessments, reassessments improve somewhat because people are getting the chance to practice. And the assessment itself can, of course, upregulate or activate the cerebellum on that side. So just in closing, guys, always remember to assess, reassess. Hopefully I've driven that home. Please do check out the research articles. Those are fantastic. And then if you want to check out our course too, the website is neurotrainingfoundations.com. If you want to email me with any questions, it's brian@strongtowertraining.com. So email brian@strongtowertraining.com. Happy to answer questions that you have about this material or about our course. The course dives deeper into activating different brain areas and how to do both cerebellum work, but also cortical work, some brainstem work in there to help people move better. And so thanks for hopping on, checking out the video today, guys. And we'll have the PowerPoint put together too. So you can look for that hopefully in the same email here or in a subsequent email. Thanks.